everybody, and welcome along to the first podcast of Speaking in Tongues. My name's Mark James, I'm your host, and today I'm joined by the frontman of the Silencers, Jimme O'Neill. Thank you for joining us, Jimme.
Pleased to be here.
So just firstly, we'd like to talk to you about the band and really how did the band come about, like the Silencers, how did it all kind of stem?
Well, it started in London. I'd been in London after my first band, Fingerprints, broke up, and I was working with a company called Metropolis, who was working with a lot of electro at that time, and signed to Warner Brothers Publishing, and just working as a songwriter. And one of the projects I was involved with, I met Martin Hanlon, the drummer. And he wanted to get a band together because London was very, there was a lot of things going on. It was very trendy, but we both, we needed something that was real, something that wasn't. In London, the fashions were changing every month, So you'd be in for a month and out for a month. So out the next month. So Martin convinced me to start a band together, and we started to rehearse, and I got Cha involved because Cha had been in Fingerprints. So that was me, Martin, and Cha, and then eventually Martin got in touch with Joe Donnelly, and Joe came in further down the line to play the bass.
All right. Well, I'm glad that Martin actually done that, because we've been blessed with a lot of really good songs for the Silencers, and definitely a lot of songs for the Silencers I really love. I'm a massive fan, and a lot of my family members as well, they're massive fans. And I mean, can you feel it? I mean, that's one of the biggest anthems that you hear at most parties and weddings in Scotland nowadays. Again, most bands do it at parties and weddings, and you hear it and you know who it is, and again, it's.
I talked to in the past. I talked to a couple of musicians and they were saying that all the tunes that they played at weddings. I was saying, yeah, we do things like "I Want You" as a quick step, and there's different things, and that is a huge compliment, obviously. When there's a lot of great musicians in Scotland, it's very difficult to make a living, make music, even if you're, now, especially nowadays. But if you're playing in a band or playing in a band playing covers, then it's a great compliment, obviously, to get your tune played,
Definitely. So just crack on with the questions. As you know, we're here about songwriting. Just want to kind of pick your brain about things about songwriting, things that you do or things that you like in songwriting, things like that. So the first one would be, when did you write your first song, and how significant was it at the time, and is it still as significant now?
Well, I grew up in the folk music scene. My mum and dad were always singing Scottish and Irish folk songs, and so my first job was to play guitar, accompanying them, and all folk was really big at that time. And of course, quite early on, but Dylan came on the scene, so that changed a lot of things. There was traditional folk and the kind of popular folk, and then Dylan, which was completely blew everybody away, So that's really where I started. And my first songs, which I've still got the book somewhere, because I always wrote in a book. I always wrote like words and chords and books, and I've still got it somewhere, because I've kept every book that I've ever written songs, and there's boxes and boxes of books, And but I can't remember the first song. But what I do know is that at the start, it was always kind of like a sort of attempt to be kind of serious or something like that. Attempt to be kind of poetic and serious. And the next day, I would look at it and think, "Oh, that's complete. It's rubbish. It's pretentious crap." And most songwriters start out that way, and and some keep writing pretentious crap. But anyway, it's another story. But I managed to leave that aside, and it was a long while. It was almost 10 years later before I actually started attracting attention as a songwriter and signing for Virgin. But I had, you know, when I started writing, I was just a kid, really, you know.
I think that's how everybody starts out, really, and it's just it's mental though to see the way for your first song to like your most recent song, you would putting them beside each other, you would look at them and think like it's as if it's some folk might still write the same, but some people might think like, did I even write that? Was it even me that done that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I've always written. It's always been difficult for me to write the same song twice. So even though I was writing folk, I would be writing folk, pop, rock, everything like that, and I just go where my imagination takes me. When I was a fan of music, I liked so much music. I liked everything. And of course, and back in those days, that was a fantastic, great. I love going to big festivals and all that, and following the greatest bands that ever were. You know, I mean, artists, fantastic artists, and that was my whole building up to having a taste in music that I considered quite refined in a way, because I liked lots of good stuff. I also really liked a lot of artists that were really way out, like Zappa and Beefheart and things like that. But also like Dylan, Stones, obviously the Beatles. You know, you're in an incredible amount of high standards in those days. You know, everything was amazing. You know, Dylan Cohen, you know, Leonard Cohen, you know, was also, you know, you've never had artists better than that, and I don't think you ever will get it now. You know, so it was that was the standards. And so when I started writing myself, it was punk kicked the door down, and when punk kicked the door down, I sort of managed to get a foot in the door. And as Dylan once said, he said, "I just get inside the door before anybody knew I was there." So that's kind of how I got in. And Virgin Records, I'd been writing songs, and I get inspired by the attitude of punk, the energy of punk, which kind of brought me back to early British R&B, you know, the Stones, the Animals, and all that. And that's what I loved. I loved about that early music, but there was also some great songs there. So I just get in the door when the new wave started, because it was a rewriting the Bible of rock and roll, you know. So
I get that. I think I definitely agree that generation of music, it was you won't. I agree with you. You will not get something like that ever again. And that the amount of amazing songwriters and musicians there was at that time, and there's never been anything like that again for me. I'm a massive fan, 60s, 70s, all the way through. Again, I just think that the 60s and 70s were definitely the kind of best era of music, and there's just so many talented musicians that were there, and songwriters as well.
Yeah.
So if you could pick one songwriter, and who would be your favourite and why?
It's impossible to pick one, but just say because Bob Dylan, you know, probably was the earliest influence of what I consider great songwriting, you know, and that came pretty early on. So let's stick with him. You know?
Yeah, I think, and if there's any conversation about the best songwriter, favourite songwriter, Bob Dylan needs to come up at some point. Whether you're a fan of his music or no, it's just you can't take away from the fact that he can write a brilliant song. So is there a particular songwriting style that you admire more than others? Is that genre?
Well, the great thing about Dylan just is that it was pretty simple music to play. Even though he was quite a good acoustic guitarist, and you had to kind of work to get some of the more kind of folky things, rhythmic things that he did. But his lyrics were really like, it was really surrealistic, really way out. And I'd been inspired by books, the Kerouac books, Jack Kerouac, and the Beat Poets, and that when I read, I was working in the county buildings in Hamilton, and I was reading the Desolation Angels, which was a Jack Kerouac book that I'd found in the library there. And that kind of changed my life as well, you know. So it was like, because he just sort of got, you know, it was all about getting, I was dead naive, dead romantic. You got a backpack and you went to find out what life was like, just going on the road. So I kind of did that, you know, and I went to London with still being able to fall back on the fact that I was going to be a student there. But that's really, music was always part of that, because when I was down there, I was always like, I was playing in folk and blues clubs, and also going to see concerts, and playing in the tubes. You know, I used to play in the tube down there, which is a good education. That's why I like echo in my voice.
that would have been quite strange playing down there in the tubes.
Well, playing was all right. The thing was, you could get arrested if the police came along, and also the other thing was other guys would, other buskers would come down and sort of push you off and say, "This is my pitch now. F off, mate," you know. So there was all that, you know, but it was, you know, it was what it was, you know. But it's a good education just to sing, just to stand and sing, even though some people are embarrassed by it and other people loved it, you know. So, and they would give you money, and you know, so it was always, it's just like doing a gig, a normal gig, you know.
So I've just asked if there's any songs, is there 5 songs that you could pick in the world that you wish that you listen to and you think, I wish I wrote that, I wish I wrote that song?
Yeah, going back to the 60s, I always thought You Really Got Me by the Kinks was just that song. There was some kind of the Kinks were sort of kinky. It was some kind of menacing about it. And it was just it was perfect pop music. It was based around just a repeated guitar riff that kind of goes up the scale.
As well, definitely. I think it's a timeless song, and everybody, as soon as you hear the riff, before you even sing, you know what it is.
Well, I think I always connect that with that song a bit with the Velvet Underground, bizarrely, because I remember Lou Reed talking about the Kinks and how he loved the Kinks. And also, if you think about it, the Velvet Underground, who flirted with kind of masochistic imagery, you know, with Venus and Mars. Well, the Kinks, when they first came out, they were all wearing leather jackets and had whips, you know. So there was a funny kind of, it's quite funny, but there was that kind of connection as far as the image. But You Really Got Me was just that, you know, just what a song, you know. Just it was a real rock song, almost like a metal song, you know, if you played it heavier, you know. And of course, a lot of bands did do it, you know.
Van Halen, and they done a version of it. That was.
Everybody's done it. I remember I was at Chester College of Art when I was a student, and I saw What the Hoople doing a version of that, and that was when they were just kind of starting, you know, and everybody had long hair. It was the first time I saw all these kids dancing, idiot dancing, and they were all shaking their heads. They all had long hair. And when the whole rave scene happened, or when the punk scene happened, it was exactly the same trip. You know, everyone was just jumping about mad, you know. But each sort of wave of fan worship for a certain type of music, you know, people could do the same sort of things, you know, only slightly different, you know.
Aye, definitely. I think it's definitely a timeless track, and as I said, kind of just there's so many people that will always remember that song, and it's one that people remember the Kinks for mostly, and then when they listen to some of their other songs, they're like, oh, I've heard a lot of the Kinks tracks.
I love a lot of them. I can remember all the Kinks tracks. I thought Ray Davies was what a songwriter was, you know. Waterloo Sunset, you know, even Lola, you know. There were some great songs, you know. But anyway, the other one, God Only Knows, Brian Wilson. I think that's just like a credible genius, you know, credible chorus for that song, and he was out on his own as well, you know. And even, you know, like Paul McCartney, you know, was like saying, what a song, you know. And that was when it was a hit, you know. But you were going, this is just so, it's too good to be a hit, you know. It's like really sophisticated, beautiful, you know, music, you know.
Aye, the Beastie Boys, the Beastie Boys, the Beach Boys, sorry, they had their own sound, completely, like, in their
Yeah,
generation.
well,
It was,
that came from the fact that they were the kind of doo-wop, no, there was not doo-wop, but they had a vocal group, you know, singing and harmonies and things like that, and it was a kind of tradition in the States and the colleges and things like that, and that's where it all came from, doing, you know, everybody singing different harmonies and singing a song and putting an arrangement together, and they were incredible at it. You know?
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. I think the full album, Pet Sounds.
Aye.
It's just,
well,
it will always be one of the best albums ever, and given the time it came out as well, it's able to think how really well done it is in terms of production stuff too.
Well, apparently McCartney and the Beatles thought that Pet Sounds really inspired the Sgt. Pepper, because they had heard this and they thought, you know, that set the bar high for it. You know, we're going to do something completely different, you know, and they did, you know. So another song that I like is over, I would say, Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen. I've sang that quite a few times, and what I love about it is that the great version of the song is probably Jeff Buckley's version, you know, which was the hit and all that. And I love Jeff Buckley, and I also loved his father, Tim Buckley. Tim Buckley, Jeff Buckley's father had an amazing voice. He was a great singer in the 70s, you know, and but the words in that song are really dark and really vicious, even though it's a love song. But and only Cohen would write that way, you know. And so I must admit that's a song that stands out for me, you know.
And that's another one, just like the Kinks, that so many people's put their own turn on and done a version of it. And as you say, Jeff Buckley's one was probably the most well-known version, and the chords he plays in that song is brilliant. Again, it's the way it just puts it together. I think it's amazing how it's still like Cohen's version, but it's different and it's his own way of doing it. And I just think, you've done a
it was his voice. It was a great showcase for his voice, which he had an incredible voice, especially something like that. You know, it was really big. I mean, his father had an amazing voice as well, and he inherited that. And it was dead. What was really sad, it always makes me feel quite sad, as both of them died very young. I mean, his father, you know, and that I think it's a terrible thing, you know, but two absolutely fantastic artists, the father and the son. So the other one I've got here, I think Perfect Day, Lou Reed, which I love the Velvets, and I love Lou Reed, and we saw a song a few times. Me and my pals, who are all still kind of long-haired freaks, we went to see him at the QM. Lou Reed, when he was playing, he came over to Glasgow and he played at the QM with a band called the Tots as his backup band, and it was the start of the album. He's got the Panda makeup on, you know, and Transformer. But the album, I think the album was maybe just coming out, but Lou Reed wasn't very well known. There was hardly anybody there at the Glasgow concert, just us and our friends, you know. But generations and generations after that, you know, there was everybody just. The Velvets were one of those bands that people picked up even after punk. You know, people were listening to them and getting inspired by the heritage of that music, which it's the kind of thing once you got into the Velvets, you just thought you could start your own band, you know. And that was one of the great things about them. They're
definitely one of the all-time greats, and I love Lou Reed's music. I love the Velvet Underground's music. I think his album Berlin was a masterpiece. It was absolutely phenomenal. Really enjoyed that album. And I've only got into Lou Reed through listening to Velvet Underground, and I thought I'll probably like Lou Reed because it'll be similar. It's similar in a way, but it's different type. It's got a different feel to it. I think his solo stuff to the Velvet Underground.
Yeah, I mean, we did the gig. I remember we did the gig in the Calderon in Spain, Atletico Madrid's ground. And it was the Simple Minds, Lou Reed, and the Silencers. it was a brilliant gig.
Yeah.
I can remember, especially in every band, everything. It was great to see Lou at that time. He was playing the album New York. I think that was the album. I think it was called New York, or something like that. And it was a great album. It was like, just rock and roll kind of. Really good 80s lyrics. Also, I always thought he was one of the greatest lyricists, and rock and roll. He really had that street thing, To get that, I think you have to live in New York,
So the next part we're going to do is a wee segment I put together myself, and I'm just want to ask a few questions. I'll say some lyrics, and you can try and have an educated guess as to who wrote it.
All right. Okay.
So I'll just go through some of the lyrics I've got on my phone. No pressure for that.
Well, you bet I'm warning you. I'm an expert on the 60s, the 50s, 60s, and 70s, 80s a wee bit, but not all the bands. And after that, I'll be very lucky to get anything right.
Right, well, I've got one here for you. Well, I just got into town about an hour ago, took a look around, see which way the wind blows.
Is that Paul Simon? Simon Garfunkel?
No.
Wait a minute. But I know the lyric, but I just got into town about an hour, took a look around to see which way the wind blows. No, I mean, if it's not Paul Simon, then is it from that era, or it's something
it's the 60s, it's it's the 70s, actually it's 71, I think.
Well, I should be able to get it then. Just getting to 10 about an hour ago, took a look around to see which way the wind blows. No. You go.
It's LA Women, The Doors.
Right. Well, I've had that album, and I love the Doors. I love the Doors. Saw the Doors at the Isle of Wight, the big Isle of Wight. It was there. The first Isle of Wight was Bob Dylan, the band, which was incredible. The band were fantastic, incredible. And then the next year there was 5 days, and me and my pals were on the hill because we didn't have a ticket, and we had a pot of jam and a loaf for 5 days. But we were happy, because we were just like, there was so much great music, and by being on the hill, the music was actually better on the hill because there was wind that took the sound up the hill. Of course, they did that deliberately because there was a lot of. It was after Woodstock, and they thought that people wanted a free festival, but it wasn't a free festival. But we saw it for free, and of course, then there was a lot of problems with security and all that. Doors were, getting bashed in and all that. But I remember that with a lot of. I remember seeing it because I saw Hendrix, I saw the Doors, and Leonard Cohen, Joni Mitchell, and a host of other acts that were just all the Who. Everybody was at it.
Who was the best of the weekend at the Isle of Wight? Who would you say was the best?
Well, you can, if you're seeing Hendrix, you're going.
Aye.
And he came on once again. He came on about 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that, And so you just go. I've seen him, and they didn't last. And both, and the Doors as well, and Jimmy and Jim Morrison, they weren't there. you know, about a year after that. You know, it was just so so sad. You know, once again, you know, Leonard Cohen was. I remember he was great, and that he was the first guy I saw. He said put up hold a light up at the Isle of Wight, and he said it's like a million fireflies. You know, hold a lighter up. So he was the first artist I've ever seen doing that. I don't know if he invented it, but I saw him. That was way back in it was 1970. You know, and so the Who were always fantastic live. And you know, there was so many great acts.
I think the Who's one of the only bands that are still really kind of gone for that era and still releasing music up to Ken.
Well, they were just the thing is that they were just like they you know they were so good on stage, and it was just go for it, you know, and it was just their own style, and great songs. Everybody knew the songs, but when they put on a show, it was just so much energy, and that was it. You know, when you saw them, they were fantastic. It just made got everybody up, you know.
Even listening to the music and not even seeing them, you can feel they've got an energy that's you can feel them busting through your phone or your speaker or whatever you're listening to them on. You can feel it, especially with Pinball Wizard and things like that. And Who Are You? When he's shouting right at the end of that, and it's like you can feel the energy, and it's mental.
My Generation, that was always my favourite song because it was just kind of. We even did it once with the Sansons. I don't know if we played it. I think we might have done it as an encore one time, but it was just because it was just like so a statement, you know. It was just like it was like that was like the first punk song in a way, you know. My Generation. It was just it was great.
The bass line's absolutely amazing in it as well. The wee bass solo as well.
Well, Steph in the band, Steph Greer, who plays with the band, he's a huge fan of the Who and the bass player, as he's, you know, he always, that's his hero.
So next question would be, what do you think makes a great songwriter great?
I think, I mean, there's so many different kinds of songs, so there's so many different kinds of way of putting it over, but I think the best songs touch people emotionally, with experiences that maybe the writer has experienced, and he manages to put it down in words what lots of people feel, and with maybe a twist or something that's unusual or something. And I think that's what sometimes makes a great song, as well as the technical stuff or the natural ability to create melody, you know. That, I mean, I was lucky that melodies just come to me. I never tried, and I think it's a sort of, you know, it comes with my folk background, or Irish something. I've got a musical ear. I just always had it, and I don't try and invent melodies. They just come into my head. I've got a couple of chords. It's always the tune that I just, you know, it just comes out. You know, I never think about it. And so melody is very important, I think. And as I say, there's an emotional side of putting something that is kind of, you know, writing lyrics, I think, although they don't have to be alike when a lyric reads like poetry, it doesn't have to be to explain it. It doesn't, you know, it's the words should be chosen to have a sound, you know, because it's got to be, and it sounds good together, you know. So it's too writing, you know, writing songs. If you write lyrics and the music, it's two different parts two different sort of disciplines. You know, you've got to, you know, writing the words were always for me the hardest thing. Melody would come easy, and then I had to find words that went with the music, went nicely with the music, and that was always pretty hard. And also that when I saw them written down, they looked good, and they were, and it also goes with the song, and it kind of propels the song. And it's got to be easily sung, because that was very important. When you sing a certain way, or you sing, it's certain words are easy to sing, and certain. You can have great words. I've written songs with, I thought the words were great until I tried to sing it, and then I went, nah, it doesn't sing well. It doesn't work.
Right.
And that's it, so I didn't deliberately try and fit it in, like Dylan would have done and managed to do it, I just go, no, I need to find a different way of writing it. Painted Moon was an example of that. When I wrote Painted Moon, I wrote words that I thought were perfect in the sense that I wanted to write about. It was a song about the Falklands War, but then when I tried to sing it, it didn't sing good, and I had the original demo was done just by making up sounds. The French call that yogurt, just making up a sound, and so. But the sounds I was making sounded like words, and so I had to go back to first principles and hear what I'd done on the demo, and then make it sound like sounds I was making. And in a way, what I thought about that afterwards was it was probably my unconscious mind that were creating those sounds. It's kind of sounded like phrases or words. I thought, well, that's pretty cool as well.
That's quite cool. So as you were saying before about what makes a good songwriter, so I do agree. I think your lyrics, you need to try and connect with a lot of people, and kind of in different generations. It changes completely. We go for, well, for instance, I think that's why Oasis were as big as they were, because the songs connected with a lot of people, and they were speaking about the things that they knew and the things that happened to them, and a kind of working class lifestyle, really. And I think that's why the 90s was all, the Britpop era was all kind of based around that. It was very much like that. It was, and I think that's why Oasis got the recognition they got, because everybody knew that they were singing about it and they meant it. Again, you get bands like Pulp and Blur and stuff, they couldn't really sing about these things. But I definitely agree that, yes, the songwriting, the songs just need to connect with a lot of people, and it needs to become believable in a way too.
Yeah, and one of the best the best compliments I ever got was it was after our fourth album, I think, and fourth or fifth album, and we were doing a concert in Thurso in the north of Scotland, and after the concert, it was just a little concert, a sort of acoustic concert, and a girl came up to me and said, "How did you know what I was thinking?" I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." She said, "The song on the album, it's called I Woke Up. That's what I was thinking. The lyrics of that song, I Woke Up, is exactly what I was thinking. I wanted you to know how you knew it." I said, "Well, obviously, I didn't know how you were thinking, but if I wrote it down, it's probably because I've felt the same way, and so that applies to, to you and you, and that's, that's what I'm trying to do as a lyricist. I'm trying to find, and it's usually you take it out of your own experiences. If you've got a kind of, my life was always a bit of an emotional roller coaster. So I was always writing songs about the way I felt and the way I thought about things, or the way quite often about the way I was feeling, and I would put that into words. And I did that with Fingerprints and at the start, and there was a lot of songs about states of mind and things like that, and all that kind of stuff. So that's maybe, I think that was one of the best compliments I ever got about a song, how it touched somebody, emotionally.
I think to touch somebody's life like that, and to think, definitely want to be the only person that feels like that you've wrote something down and you've made a song that's exactly what they were thinking.
There was another song from the Silencers, 1 Inch of Heaven. A guy wrote to me, this guy from Aberdeen, and he was saying that song saved my life. You know what I mean? You can't, you know, words to explain that, you know. And the funny thing about that, the song, was that I had times in my, you know, especially in the early days when I had been probably abusing the substances a bit too much, where I wasn't feeling too good. And so when and with the Silencers, I deliberately tried to write sometimes even though the lyric was kind of, or the tune was kind of plaintive, and it was, you know, there was a, but I tried to leave it with a positive message. I tried to put a positive message into the song because I thought it was easy. You know, quite often when I would do a demo, a sad thing would come out and you would go, well, and I would go, well, it's easy. It's actually easy to write sad stories, easier than positive ones, because it's harder. It's harder to write a happy tune, and for the happy tune to be sort of serious. So that's I was kind of proud about the songs that I did manage, and one Inch of Heaven, and see the lyric at the start was, and there's 1 inch of heaven that's over for me. And that was just because it just came into my head and I was singing. And then I thought, no, I can't say that. I can't say there's 1 inch of heaven that's over for me. I'm going to sing open for me. And it took me about a month.
Just to change the one word.
Find open. You know, and it just transforms the whole song. And that was that's the kind of key, you know, you just find a little key that, you know, you've got ideas in your head, but you find the key that when you realise in a pragmatic way what you're trying to say, it would be better to be in this with this song rather than making, you know, to make it positive, you know. And so that's, you know, there was good, and then, you know, I can feel it, you know, it was like that, you know, I can feel it was really positive right from the start, you know.
It's mental that just the one word, again, changing it from over to open.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, like over it, it gives that kind of dark and like a kind of a sad theme, and changing it to open.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the song was about going down to the Clyde, which I'd done, usually come out of a club or something. I wandered down to the Clyde, looking at the water, the big black water, and just thinking, but then so I thought, okay, you know, if I'm really going to take this to, you know, if I write, there's 1 inch of heaven that's over for me, you know, I want to throw myself in, you know, but I don't want to write that kind of song. I want to write 1 inch of heaven that's open for me. So you're looking into the river, but in the reflection of the river, you might see the moon, or you might see something that makes you think, or the lights, the city lights at night, and you're going, okay, that's all right, you know, that's good, you know.
It's definitely better to kind of definitely pick the stories across and say kind of how you feel, but put a positive message on it to let the people know that listen to your music that I've been through some stuff and it gets better, kind of, it will get better. You just need to kind of keep going and think of a better way to deal with it, Ken.
Well, you know, as I say, that what I had to do, which is incredible, it's incredible difficult thing to do, is just be positive. Don't allow yourself to fall into the hole. Don't allow yourself to fall down the black hole, you know. And that means being unrealistically positive about everything. So you just block it out. You block the bad things out, and you just go with good things. And eventually, it's like one of the things. Another was keep smiling, because when you smile, it has a effect on your mind. it puts the what do you call it, serotonin or something, whatever you call it, in the mind, and it makes you happier. So the more you smile, the more happier you are. And that's why people used to say to me, "Why, you know, see every photograph you do, you're smiling." And there's two reasons. One of them is that reason that I'm saying. Whenever I feel a bit uneasy and a bit, which I always did, you know, getting my photograph taken for photo shoots, I would just have to think, just smile, just because think how crazy this is, how that you're actually in a band and you're getting photographed to do this. And it just used to make me laugh. And then you get a natural smile by thinking how ridiculous this is, you know. It's just a stupid game, you know. So there was that. There was that part of it. And also the fact it was, when I did smile, I looked just totally miserable, you know. Whenever I did try to keep my, you say, no, don't smile, I'm going to be looking serious. I would look at the photo and I go, oh man, it doesn't look good, you know. I don't look good, you know. So you know, I mean, whatever, anyway, you know. So it was. I just thought I look better when I smile. I should just smile, and that's your look, you know.
You always man's doing like photo shoots, and they always just end up either looking into the distance or trying to look serious and things like that. But I mean, smiling.
I've done photo shoots where the photographer has quit after the first 10 minutes because he'll say something and go, oh no, look, mate, I don't want you to get down and take the photograph, look, because you can frame it against the sky, but what you're going to get is the underside of all our chins, and we're all going to look ugly. The chin shot was we used to make a joke about the under the chin shot. Oh, he's doing the under the chin shot, and I said, of course, you eventually come out with, oh, is this under the chin time? You know, and the guy would look at you and go, you know, under the chin shot, you know, that's really unflattering photograph. You know, if I was taking the photograph, I would get you to sit there and I'd be above you and I would take it looking down and you'd look better. They would go mental, you know. But that's my problem because I'm also a painter, you know. I was at art school, so I look at things in a visual way. And when I look at photographs, I know why that looks good. I mean, a lot of people take good photographs, or people, the artists that take it is because I'm incredibly good looking, you know. But not everybody is. And not everybody, even people that are not bad looking, or even people that are sometimes good looking, a bad photograph can make it look terrible. So it's just like, you know, it's quite important. I always thought it was quite important, but we never managed it. I was always thought one of these days we'll take a reasonable photograph, but it was very difficult to take them, especially when you've got 4 people, you know, who are not very comfortable with getting their photograph taken, because it's a professional job, you know. And then when I met people who were in the fashion business in London and that, you see the people who do, you know, the models and that, you go, well, yeah, no wonder that they get paid for, you know, because completely incredible looking people, and also they know how to get the photograph taken. But musicians don't necessarily, you know. I mean, musicians always felt a bit, we're happy on stage because it's a different, it's our real environment. But taking photographs is for certain, you know, not for everybody, but that was always a challenge for us.
I think for musicians, I think the best time to get pictures of musicians is definitely on stage when you're performing, because you're in your own world, you're in the zone, and you're
the thing is, you're right about that, except that you'll get a good photograph of the lead singer or the lead guitarist, but you won't get all the band together. So you eventually have to play that game of, and I mean, if you think of the models that played the game, the 2 Beatles and the Stones, the Beatles were groomed. They had a image set and the haircuts. It was all and so together it just all worked, and that was, you know, Brian Epstein put that together. And then the Stones, who came out after, they went for the complete opposite, but they, as people, they looked very, very different and very, you know, they were the moody, the bad guys. So So that was there. But when you don't have that worked out, how are we going to do this? I mean, at the start of the Silencers, we did have a look, because John and Martin were very, they did say they had some of the stuff we did right at the start was actually okay. It was harder to keep it going, you know. The kind of denim 501s. I remember that at the time, you know, because I was wearing grey denim, Joe was wearing blue denim. So it was a kind of look that was cool. You know, it wasn't a fancy look in it. It was just something we played. It was more or less the way we were dressed anyway, but then it just had to work well together. And at the very start, we were okay. And I mean, it was funny because we were in America with the Silencers at the start. And I remember a kid after a concert said to us, "Where do you get your clothes? What inspires you to make your clothes?" And I said, "Well, it's blue denim, it's American. We're going for 50 American look." Joe used to wear cowboy boots and all that, you know. And I said, it's American, but the Americans at that time had no idea of kind of fashion or trends or anything like that. They just didn't ever think about it, you know. And that was even, so that's really in the 80s, but it changed, of course, you know, because so at that point, that was the ironic thing about that, you know, about image and trying to get an image. So we did have on the first couple of albums, we did have a sort of look. Although I'd say the first album had a look when we started, yeah.
So moving on to the next question, is there any songwriters that are out now, kind of current songwriters that you really admire and you think that you really enjoy their music, or any bands that you just enjoy?
I hear it. What I do is when I'm down every morning, I'm down listening to when I'm taking a cup of coffee in the morning. I go and I hear this a kind of thing in the gallery music gets played, and it's a mix of certain things. You know, you hear things and you go, "I wonder who that is." And I used to have the Shazam on the phone. I would listen to it and go, "I think that's pretty good actually," because I'm always looking for modern music that I like, but I don't necessarily know the artist. You know, I mean, I've got a 6-year-old son, and he put on the music the other day, and then it was music of Sonic the Hedgehog, you know. And but there's some really good stuff on there written by you know, what's it called? I looked up the band's name, you know, they were doing it, you know. So and there was one song, Believer, and I was going, that's pretty good, you know. There was a lot of, you know, so there's a lot of music that gets used in films and songs that get used in films, and especially, you know, you go, that's really good, that's good, I like that, you know. But I'm not up on, I know, you know, I'm not up on bands as much. I mean, if I'm going to listen to music, I'll either listen to old stuff. My wife likes as well, you know, she likes old, because I've got a project over here that we're doing old country and old 50s music, so we'll listen to Sun Records or something like that, you know, in the car, you know, and it always cheers us up, you know, just listen to stuff like that. And I like things like Australian Garage and all that, because there's a company here that puts out vinyl, and there's a festival here that does that kind of stuff. And there's also a big festival here that does a lot of electro or that kind of stuff as well. So I personally like rock, guitar music, but I'm open to everything. I've always have been open to any kind of stuff that may just hit me, you know.
Definitely, I think that's the lovely thing about music, that it's just, you can listen to absolutely anything. If you've got a good ear and you really love music, and you will listen to anything. Just if you like it, you like it. If you don't, well, you don't need to listen to it again anyway. So I think we've only got a couple of questions left. So
okay.
I don't know if your favourite songwriter has changed over the years, but as we were talking about before, Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen and stuff, is your all-time favourite songwriter and the songwriter you listen to the most now, have they got anything in common or any correlation or anything like
that? No, not necessarily, because, as I say, that when I listen, I'll hear something and I'll go, I like that, you know, and it could be something, you know, and I've got to find out who it is, you know, but maybe I don't find out, you know, but I'll appreciate it for what it is. Usually, because I'm listening at two levels, you know, I'll maybe be listening to the music that's in the song, and I go, I really like that. I like that melody. But in terms of actually loving, really liking it, I love going to live gigs and I love going to see bands, and I might only like 2 or 3 that their songs or something like that, you know. But I mean, for instance, we were playing it with my project, which is kind of like a kind of country rock, old rock and roll project. We were playing in a bar here in Wren, and I listened. I heard something coming on the bar jukebox after we played, and I didn't know who it was. And I was saying, "Who was that?" Because it was like listening to Nirvana or something like that, you know. And the barman said, "Oh, it's an Australian band. What's the name? I wrote down the name of the band. Amy, Amyl and the Nitrates. Amyl and the Nitrates.
Oh,
Amy.
as Amyl Sniffers?
Sniffers, not the Nitrates, the Sniffers.
Amyl
and the Sniffers. So I wrote that down, and the thing was that they were meant to be playing in the festival here that weekend. So that's why it was on the pub's kind of radio kind of thing, or the jukebox thing. But they cancelled, and it was obviously because of COVID or something. You know, they had to cancel because they were meant to be playing here in the festival. And since then I've been listening to them, you know, and that's just something I like. I don't like everything, but I do like that one song. You know, it's what's the title? It's one of the, you know, it's got a big guitar riff through it, you know, but it's really good. And right, as I said, that, you know, like in the 80s, you know, when I first heard Nirvana, you just go, wow. It was like listening to the Beatles again, only the Beatles for the 80s, you know. I just went, wow, that's just fantastic, you know.
I think I really like punk music, and when I heard Amyl and the Sniffers, it was a nostalgic feeling to hear that type of punk again. Brought back, Ken, it was like listening to bands from the 70s and 80s, like punk bands, and it was like, and it's I really like it. I really like the Australian accent coming through as well when she's singing. I think that's really cool. There's something quite good about it. I think that's what really made me like it as well. They're a really good band as well, but I just went into it because I thought, her accent's really cool coming through that. It's not something you usually hear in kind of punk music, an Australian accent.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. The thing, I saw a band in the past, and here in Wren, and the band were called the Six. They're called 6 Feet Hick, and it was 2 brothers. I think their names is it the Corby brothers? Not Corby. It's shit. It's something else. Anyway, they really well done stage, really crazy, but they were absolutely brilliant, you know. But it's that Australian rock, garage rock as a big scene, because they can make a living just going around. There's so many places to play, and get, you know, it's rock, and there's a place to play it, you know. And it's you know, I do like that kind of thing. I was influenced by that in the start, you know, the very fact that punk was like, you make your own record, you make it, you put it out, you sell it to your fans and all that kind of stuff. And that was a great thing. the enthusiasm and the energy at the start of punk was really incredible, you know. You know, that's really what music's about. It's whether or not that, you know, I mean, we're in a different world now, sort of, although music has become almost free, you know, which is not really that great for a musician. You know, I mean, because it was okay, and people say, but you know, you can still do concerts. You go, yeah, and then COVID comes along, and you haven't done a concert for 2 years, you know. So
that was the thing with a lot of bands, and artists that I listened to myself, like Declan McKenna and the likes. He hadn't wrote anything in 2 years, and I think he still obviously recorded stuff during isolation and stuff like that, but couldn't get to perform it, so he didn't release it. I think that was the same for a lot of artists. They just didn't release any of their music because the whole thing with a lot of your music now, can you release the album or the EP or whatever, a single, and to get it out there a bit more. I think it was anyway.
Well, we've got an album ready to go, you know, and hopefully we're still talking to people about how we're going to release it. But you know, that's ready to go, and you know, that was all done during lockdown, you know. So you know, I can't wait till it's out.
You got a date set for when you want to release it?
No, because it depends on, we're still talking to people, and we're sort of get contacts, looking at the best way to do it, you know, because it's not, nowadays there's so many ways to do it, but the theme and the thing hasn't changed. You've got to have concerts lined up, then get, you know, try and put your album out at the time that you're going to get publicity for concerts, and try and tie it all together. And it was always like that before, but there was other people doing it for you. Nowadays you've got to do it all yourself, so it's not so, it's more difficult, you know.
So just to wrap this up, this will be the last question. Who is an artist that you've been listening to a lot right now, and who's an artist you've listened to the most right now, past, present, if anything? Just who's one artist you could pick that you've listened to a lot?
Well, I mentioned to you that this is not an artist that I'm a real fan of in a way, but it's just a very interesting artist. I mean, over here I hear a lot of French music, and until you've actually lived in France, you know, you don't really have a high opinion about French music, because a lot of French pop is not very good, but there's some brilliant stuff, and also it's a wee bit, it's not just stuff that you hear about in Britain you would know about, you know. But one artist that was absolutely massive over here is a guy called Stromae. Now it's electro. His music's electro, but he writes about subjects that are important. Sorry?
Lauren Dance, is it? Is it Lauren Dance or Stromae?
Oh yeah, alors on danse. Aye, he did that, you know. So and it's kind of like tongue in cheek. It's like a dance rhythm, and he's singing it, but he's and then of course when he sings that live, it hits the chorus. He goes alors on danse, and everybody dances, you know. But he's also a very interesting personality. He's very striking looking. He looks like a complete star, and he's got a kind of image that's kind of could have came out in the glam time, you know, because he's kind of slick, you know, he's androgynous, but you're not quite sure, you know. But you know, but he became a huge star in France at a period where there hadn't anything happened for a while. And another one of his songs is Papa Ute, and it's what it means is, Dad, where are you? You know, because he was a kid that grew up, brought up by his mother. His father wasn't there. His father had gone split up with his mother and gone back to Africa. So it's that question that you know, it's a big social problem, you know, Papa Ute, and the ways, and the words are really, really good. And a lot of people identify with that, you know, and it's just really well put together, all the sounds and everything like that, you know. So it is electro, you know, but it's, and there was another great song he put out, it was called Formidable. And what was great about it was that it was a video. It's a video that he was at the station, and in the morning in a station, and he's in Belgium, because he's not French, he's Belgium, but he's Belgian, but he speaks French, obviously, and he's pretending to be drunk as if he's been out all night, you know, and maybe had been out all night, but it was definitely put on, and he's also known because he's had hits already. So he's kind of like doing daft things, and people come out and saying, "You all right, mate? You know, you okay?" And the cops actually say, "Hey, his name's Stromae, is like as maestro, kind of backwards, you know, it's the kind of French way of, they call it verlang, it means backwards language, Stromae." And he sings the song during, it was shot with him singing the song live. We just, punters come up to him and talking to him, and the police talking to him and saying, "Are you all right, mate? You know, are you going to be able to get home okay?" Because he knew who it was, you know, and he's just like falling about, he's falling over, you know. And it's a brilliant video, and of course, the video was all over the place. It was on the TV, it was on all this, you know. So he's always been very imaginative the way he's promoted himself as well. The only thing was he had a huge concert in Africa, a tour in Africa that he was going, because there are a lot of fans over there, and he was going, but he got what do they call it, malaria. And was really sick, and then because of the pressure of stardom about concerts, he just thought, oh, he had a bit of a burnout, you know, and just said, right, I'm stopping. So he just came back now, but that's something, he's been away for 3 years and he just came back now. So he's a very interesting character, you know. As I say, it's not you know, my favourite, you know, as far as, but it's a very interesting character that I've seen over here. It's worth checking out, especially, even though with the French language, it's not going to work necessarily in Britain, you know, it'll be a niche kind of thing, you know, but whatever, you know.
I'll definitely look into him and check him out a bit more, because I knew that song All Around Dawns, and I remember when it came out, and it was a hit in the UK at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know how well it done, but I remember it was out, and it was kind of, everybody knew what the song was, and I think even now, people they would.
Yeah. Check out the one Formidable.
Aye, I will.
He wrote it, but the thing is, it shows he's got a great voice. He's a bit like he's like the kind of electro cousin of Jack Brel, you know, because as an artist, Jack Brel was just like incredible artist, you know, a great songwriter, a great performer, and so Stromae has Jack Brel was Belgian, and so funny enough was Johnny Halliday, and they're the two most known voices, male voices in French music, probably, you know, the two guys, and both of them are from Belgium.
I'll definitely check him out. So I'd just like to say a massive thank you for coming, Jimme. I really appreciate it. It was amazing to speak to you. It was really good to get some insights into songwriting and anything like that.
Okay, Mark, yeah.
So thank you for coming. This is the first podcast in Speaking in Tongues. So just got to leave everybody with a playing of I Can Feel It.
There's a murmur in the air, and I can't hear it. There's a magic atmosphere. Oh, yes, you know it. There's a love that's everywhere, and I can feel it. I can feel it. On a day like today, you can wish yourself away. There's nothing to do but feel blessed when everything's in the right place and the sun shines in your face. You feel like the king of happiness. Oh yes, yes, yes. I get a feeling. I get a feeling. There's a murmur in the air, and I can hear it. There's a magic atmosphere. Oh yes, you know it's true. There's a